Yes, people, welcome to Lee Judges TV. Albert's talking points. But before we get into the show, ladies and gentlemen, let's hit the intro. Yes, people, welcome back to Lee Judges TV. Now, I know what you guys are thinking already. You're right. I'm Lee Judges' twin brother, Albert Judges. But no, this has been a fantastic opportunity. I have to thank Lee and Dan. I'm very grateful for the opportunities given, and I'm looking forward to doing this show because it's been coming for a while, people. Albert's talking points. If you haven't already, people, hit the like button and subscribe to Lee Judges TV. Let me go to the chat quickly because there's it's quite busy already. Wow. Big up to Spurs fan in there already. Holly's my Tottenham wife. She's allowed just for tonight because it's my first show. But big up Holly. G Talks is in there. Thank you, my bro. Thank you for the congratulations, people. My Twitter went off for the last hour and a bit. So I appreciate the love, man. So thank you to you guys. And I wanted to share this first show in particular with my special guest I got with me. I call him my little brother. RJ Arsenal blog. Rowan, welcome to Lee Judges TV for Albert Talking Points. Thank you for joining me, man.
No, it's really good to be on. You know, I always enjoy coming on other people's channels, talking about football, Arsenal in particular. And yeah, excited to be on today.
Nah, love. Much love having you on, man. Hopefully we should be joined by Io at some point during the show. I'm going to bring him in. Very, very charismatic guy. Probably more charismatic than me, to be honest. But Io's a character, but I love him. He's brilliant, man. So yeah, big up to people in the chat, man. Like I said, thank you for tuning in. When I thought about sort of the way I would do the show, Rowan, I kind of had a few brainstorming sessions, and obviously the title, as people will see, is Resilience and Resurgence when it comes to Arsenal. But there's been many sort of factors I could look at it. We know the problems we've had at our club in terms of on and off the pitch, but I want to sort of concentrate on there's an aspect of Arsenal's playing style or Arsenal's team that has been, as you will agree, Rowan, and people in the chat and people watching this on YouTube, the defense has been neglected for many, many a year. You could even stretch it back to the turn of the Emirates era. We've seen the likes of Socrates, we've seen Mustafi, we've seen Koscielny, Santos, Kolasinac, we've seen Vermaelen, we've seen a load of people that either haven't just been up to that top-notch level or they're just not good enough. We've been left pulling our hair out. But I wanted to focus on, I think, a very, very key part in terms of the topic of the show, the resilience and the resurgence of Arsenal. And for me, Rowan, I'm going to come to you. I want to talk about the defense in particular, because I think they have been a huge, huge part in terms of what Arsenal have done probably from early part of maybe pre-season, the fitness level, starting the new season. Obviously, we didn't start very well, but with a run of continuous games, I think they have been probably the cornerstone of this side. That's why I think we've achieved what we have done in the short period. Is it 9 games unbeaten in all competitions? Have I got that right? And yeah, you know, you need a solid base. And we've made obviously key additions to the defense in a couple of years, to be honest with you. I know we bought Gabriel last season, but I do want to focus on him. I want to focus on Aaron Ramsdale.
Yeah.
And I want to focus on Tomoyasu and Ben White in particular. I want to come to you firstly about I'm going to start with Aaron Ramsdale, actually. 7 games, 5 wins in those games, 4 clean sheets, passes 206 per match, works at 29.43, 41 accurate long balls and successful passes, 67. The only goalkeepers that I believe that have got more clean sheets than him are, I think it is maybe Edison, Mendy, Edison, and the other goalkeepers that Allison, I believe, would be the only 3 goalkeepers that got more clean sheets than him. I want to come to you. What's your thoughts on Ramsdale? Not just about the wonder save and the hysteria of Saturday, but sort of your initial thoughts when we were rumored with him and what you see now till today.
Oh, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't want him at the start. I think in a show we did previously on a different channel, when the links started to increase massively, and we were kind of going away from the Onana transfer because of obviously his ban, and Ramsdale appeared to be the goalkeeper that the club targeted and the one that Mikel Arteta really wanted. And I've watched Ramsdale, for Sheffield United and for Bournemouth, and quite frankly, I haven't been very impressed with him. But I think Mikel Arteta and the scouting group who do the data analysis and everything else, they looked at Ramsdale's time at Bournemouth. And whilst the sample size wasn't great in terms of actually looking at his distribution, they clearly saw something that he is the guy to be Arsenal's number one and the player who is going to progress the club forward in terms of build-up, because that's what's key. I look at Bernd Leno, and when you're looking at consistency, longevity, and a big sample size, I think he's been our best goalkeeper since Jens Lehmann, personally, ahead of the likes of Petr Cech and even Wojciech Szczesny. But it's clear to me with Mikel Arteta coming in, Bernd Leno, his deficiencies have become clearly apparent. When he has the ball at his feet, it's not just the fact that his pass selection isn't up to scratch. It's the fact that his decision making is quite slow, and I think he gives anxiety to the players ahead of him because they don't have that confidence that he can progress the team forward. Because at the end of the day, it starts from the goalkeeper. And Aaron Ramsdale's came in, and he's been fantastic. I would say he's been the best goalkeeper in the league this season, because obviously he wasn't there for the first 3 games. He came to the game against Norwich, and since then we've conceded 4 goals, and it's outstanding because for me, in a modern team who want to play possession-based football, who want to play up the pitch, want to operate with a high line, you need your goalkeeper to be very comfortable and composed on the ball, and you have to compensate for shot stopping. You look at Edison, for example; he makes a lot of mistakes in terms of actual his goalkeeping ability. You look at last week against Crystal Palace, the first goal, definitely for me should be saving that. But the reason why he does get a lot of credit in the bank is because of how good he is on the ball and how influential he is in City's attacking play. And Ramsdale, his distribution has been immense. Whenever teams press him with great intensity, he's able to play passes towards the likes of Aubameyang, Lacazette with great accuracy, and even the short passes, to the likes of Gabriel and Ben White. He's been very consistent and he's given us plenty, and that's exactly what we needed. And I think actually it's not just his distribution, of course, his actual goalkeeping has been very good. Against Leicester, outstanding saves, particularly against obviously Maddison for the free kick, and the Harvey Barnes one. I can't describe how difficult that save was, because if he isn't proactive, Barnes has got time to slot that in towards his left-hand side, but he rushes out and he makes it a really easy save. And I think the other key thing with Ramsdale is the way he commands his box. If you go back to the Burnley game, when we were really under pressure and they had successive corners against a very physical team, Ben Mee, Tarkowski, he manages to catch them and just relieves the pressure completely from the back line. It's just his all-around game has been refreshing, and I generally can't see how this deal fails now, because this is not a fluke. This is the quality Aaron Ramsdale possesses, and the club clearly looked at it and were encouraged by what he was showing at his previous clubs. And I'm very confident that he's going to continue to be a massive part of this back line. And certainly he's proven me wrong, and I'm always happy to kind of own up to my mistakes in judgment.
Yeah, I saw a lot of apologies on social media, on Twitter. I've never seen anything like it. I didn't think Arsenal fans had it in them, but no, you make a good point, Rowan, because you know what? The Arsenal recruitment has taken a hell of a lot of criticism, and rightly so. But with the Ramsdale situation, you have to credit whoever, kept an eye on him, whether it's at Bournemouth or Sheffield United. Listen, I've seen games of Ramsdale where, he made some really, really good saves at the clubs that he was at. It's just unfortunate for him. He was playing in defensive units where they were leaking goals left, right, and center. I don't care how good a goalkeeper you are. If you're playing in a defense that is not stable, that is not solid, it's very difficult to get your team points and win matches. It's
Yeah, and
impossible.
just to put to pick up on that point, actually, I think this is something Bernd Leno has struggled with, because if you go back to Emery, where we were facing plenty of shots, he was actually very good. But since Arteta's came in, we've been facing lower volume of shots, and he has struggled to maintain concentration. And you look at Aaron Ramsdale, and like you said, when you actually look at the all-round picture, he did succeed at Sheffield United in terms of making tremendous saves. And at Arsenal, he's obviously going to be facing less volume, and he's going to have to be a lot more. He's going to have to maintain concentration levels, and so far he's been brilliant in that aspect. So yeah, fantastic.
No, well said. And also, I've got to be honest, Rowan. I've seen enough of Ramsdale, to be honest, even at Sheffield United and Bournemouth. But unless you watch him week in, week out, I mean, I'd have to speak to some Sheffield United contacts or Bournemouth contacts, because I don't think any Arsenal fan, if they're being truly honest, did realize his distribution was that good. That can't be an accident. That must have been something that Arsenal must have looked at. Would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. It's because you see, after Ramsdale was announced and Arteta spoke in his press conference, he said he was the goalkeeper I wanted. They were adamant that he is the guy to be the number one, and you have to give them credit. I'm a firm believer that whatever your actual opinion is on the recruitment team, the hierarchy, you have to give them praise when they deserve it. And quite frankly, all the summer signings have been fantastic, and they've made sense on paper, when we actually acquired them, although obviously other fans from other clubs and pundits who don't watch Arsenal frequently and don't understand the kind of way we're going with our transfer recruitment, they didn't understand it. But I think large portions of the fan base understood the route Arsenal were going to go for. It was a risk, but so far it's looking really good. And massive praise to both Arteta and Edu. I think there is talk that Edu wanted Neto, but we don't know 100% if that is accurate. Because at the end of the day, it's a joint decision between both of them. They're the two who are making the decisions, and I think if you give Arteta credit, you've got to give Edu credit as well.
No, fair play. Like I said, I didn't realize, I'll be honest, with Ramsdale in terms of his distribution, he was that good. And it's not a fluke. I mean, watch the game against Norwich, Tottenham, Leicester on Saturday. His distribution is different class. And it makes such a difference in terms of the transition and also the quickness of the transition. But no, he's been amazing so far. But I'm probably going to come back to Ramsdale a little bit, because I'm going to touch on the defense as a whole. But the next person I want to talk about with you is Takahiro Tomoyasu. Again, I made this point on somebody else's channel. It might have been mine, actually. Is that one thing with him is, when we came to the last day of the transfer window, if any Arsenal fan is honest, right, I didn't expect any signings to come in. And even if there was going to be any signings that was coming, I didn't think they were going to strengthen in an area of the pitch what I've been crying out for years in terms of the right back position or full back position. I didn't see that coming. I don't know if you did, or if you've got any contacts that knew much about Tomiyasu, because I think he had 61 games playing for Bologna. He's got about 26 caps for Japan. So people might look at it and think 61 games isn't that many, but if you actually think about it, it's not a bad stint to be playing regular football.
Yeah, it is a significant amount of games, 100%.
So what have you made of sort of his impact at Arsenal, and how good has he been for you in your eyes? What's the strengths and the weaknesses that you've kind of seen?
Yeah, just like you, I didn't expect Arsenal actually to get anyone on deadline day, which was frustrating, because I woke up that day and thought, I checked my phone, there was nothing happening. Oh God, it's going to be a long day. And especially with Arsenal Twitter, you know how it's like. And but then I actually did get a message from someone who said that Arsenal were looking at Takahiro Tomiyasu. And I didn't know who he was, because I don't watch Serie A massively. I watch the Bundesliga, Liga 1, and obviously the Premier League in particular. So I looked at him and thought, okay, this looked like it's actually going to happen. So I actually did my due diligence, and I watched him over 3 games, full games on that day. Brilliant. And I wrote an article about it because I thought this actually makes massive sense. Because when I look at Arsenal and the way we build up, you have Kieran Tierney, although Nuno Tavares has been playing over the past 2 games. But primarily, Tierney is the guy who's acting as that aggressive fullback on the left. He's the guy who's high up the pitch primarily. And the right back is a lot more conservative, as you saw with Callum Chambers when he played towards the back end of last season. The right back tends to drop back into the back three to help with build-up. And then when we go forward into the final third, they will overlap when there's an opportunity to do so. But primarily, they'll join the midfield and they'll give the centre-backs that shield when we don't have the ball to give them that enough protection. And Tomiyasu plays the exact same role for Bologna. You know, I watched 3 games and they were against good teams as well, Juventus, and it was Roma as well. And he was really good. You know, obviously 3 games is not a big enough sample, but it's a good good way of getting a taste of what kind of player he is, because I believe I can kind of judge a player after 3 games, not with full confidence, but I can get a taste of what he's like. And since he came in, I think he's been outstanding, because I think you've got to consider the fact that Serie A and the Premier League, there's a vast change in terms of
absolutely tempo, everything.
Physicality. And even when I was watching those games, it's a lot slower and you have so much more time on the ball. And the first game he had against Norwich, you know, I think he came back from international duty. He didn't have, I think he had 1 training session. Maybe he didn't have 1. And he came in and he was outstanding, you know. And certainly, I think Arsenal, again, you have to give the recruitment team massive credit, because they recruited for a specific profile. They wanted a right back who was going to be a lot more conservative, who's going to help us in build up. Similarly to the way, you know, when Azpilicueta played for Antonio Conte, you know, he was that more cautious player along the back line. And Tomiyasu, stylistically, that's the role that he played for Bologna, and that's what he's playing for Arsenal. And he's been fantastic in aerial duels. I like the way he recovers, especially when you consider the fact that he's a tall guy and he does get back into position fairly quickly. So yeah, Norwich, fantastic. Burnley, really good. Tottenham, great. The game against Brighton in the first half, I think that was his first tricky game.
Proper test,
massive test. And you know, Cucurella is a very exciting wing back. He gave Liverpool all sorts of problems on the weekend as well. And he had a tough time in the first half. But what I do like about Tomiyasu was that he reacted in the second half and he was much more assured, much more solid. And I like that from a player, where even though you've had a bad half, you're not going to dwell on that. You're able to kind of react and you're able to put in a good performance. And I think the game after that against Palace, I thought in possession-wise, he wasn't great, but a lot of the players in that game as well, after we did go ahead, kind of dropped off in their quality on the ball. So it's difficult to really pinpoint it on Tomiyasu. But you know, in the last couple of games against Leicester and Aston Villa, I think he's done very well. And especially, like I said, when you consider the fact that he's new to the league, the culture, the pace, intensity, and for 18 million, you know, I think it's a very astute piece of business from Arsenal. And you just compare it to Tottenham, for example, where you look at Emerson Royale, who is a lot more well-known than Tomiyasu. And I think Spurs went for the more glamorous signing in terms of the name, whereas Arsenal recruited for the specific profile. And that's what I love about this deal. It's going to be, for me, one of our best signings of the season. And hopefully he can maintain it.
Now, well said. Like, even just giving you some numbers, you're probably aware of these anyway, in terms of Premier League anyway, because like you mentioned with Ramsdale, they haven't played the full 10 games in the Premier League this season. So those are numbers I'm basing it off what I've seen in the Premier League. So Tomiyasu, 42% tackle success, clearances 23, recoveries 37, duels won 36, accurate long balls 13. So listen, numbers, I think for defenders, for me, sometimes they mean a little bit more, particularly with our defense anyway, over the years. But no, you know what? I said it after the Norwich game, and I said to people, when they's asking me my team lineup for the Norwich game, for example, I said, if he's fit, if the visa is sorted, he comes straight in. I said, none of this bedding people in and giving them time. We've bought him for a specific reason, not just for a specific reason, because we bought a player in him where he plays in a role that was absolutely fundamental and needed at Arsenal. Yes, people will kind of saying, are they sure whether he's a right back or centre back? I don't know what the games you saw him when he played in Italy. Did he play strictly as a right back, or did he?
Well, it's just you know, like for Arsenal, for example, on paper he's a right back, but you know, when we actually build out from the back, we have Tomiyasu, who tends to drop back But actually, in the last couple of games against Aston Villa and Leicester, he's kind of pushed up a little bit, but he's still being that guy who's helping us in build-up. So he's doing exactly the same role to what he was doing for Bologna. And that's exactly why I said after 3 games, this signing makes perfect sense, and I think I don't like it when people, you see a name who you've not heard of and immediately you write them off, do your due diligence and actually watch them play, not just in a compilation, but watch them over full 90 minutes and see what they're actually good at. Don't get me wrong, he does have weaknesses because obviously in terms of going forward and overlapping, I don't think he's going to give you that same level of quality to a Tierney or a Tavares on the opposite flank. But like I said, that's not really what we want our right back to do primarily. Of course, we want him to overlap when there's an opportunity to do so. For example, if Saka's got the ball and he's isolated, you want your right back to join, obviously. But
I think that will come more. I do think that will come more. I mean, even after sort of I think it was the Palace game, Rowan. I could kind of feel the grumbles on. We're not sure. I said, look, just relax with Tomoyasu. I said, when I look at the Premier League, people in the chat might disagree. Rowan, you could probably bring you in again. I don't see too many in the league, probably for quite a few years, to be honest with you, who defensively and offensively are brilliant. There's not. I don't think there's many. I think Trent, obviously, I've mentioned it before, is fantastic going forward defensively. Believe me, he has his flaws. Wan-Bissaka's the complete opposite. He's brilliant one-on-one and defensively, but going forward, I would say probably the only right back off the top of my head, I would say who's probably good at both facets of the game is probably Reece James at Chelsea. Because I think he's very.
You make a great point. If you're an outstanding offensive fullback and you're an outstanding defensive fullback, you're going to be one of the best in the world, aren't you? But that's why I said, it's not a problem for me because we needed our right back to perform a specific role, and Tomiyasu fits the bill, and it's been a great start so far. And he's had a couple of nervy moments, but you have to accept that, context is needed. This is a new league for him. He's still understanding how to play with his teammates as well, and there's going to be different challenges presented to him. I actually liked, when Harvey Barnes came on, there was a 5-minute spell where Harvey Barnes had great joy against him, but I like the reaction Tomiyasu had after that, where he did kind of mitigate the influence that he had after the 60th minute mark. So he's learning and he's performing really well. So I don't think many fans can really say he's not had a huge impact so far.
You make a good point, actually, because, like I said, Cucurella gave him a good going over in the Brighton away game. But in the second half, he actually did very well, Tomiyasu. He adapted and he got used to him. And I thought he actually did quite well against him in the second half. I think with Tomiyasu, he's very well-rounded and competent in a lot of number of things as opposed to being, fantastic going forward. He's very competent at doing a lot. He's very good at, for me, I call it the basics. He's very good at clearing his lines. If you look at all the games he's played this season, there's been a couple occasions where he got caught on the ball, but that's going to happen. It's a Premier League. Like you said, it's tough. It's not meant to be easy. But he's looked very well-rounded for me. So he's been,
and that's exactly, the point you make, his reaction. And for me, over the last 3 years, I don't know if everyone else does this, but I watched the whole Arsenal game back. The 90 minutes to full. And when I watched the game against Brighton, I thought Tomiyasu had a really tough time throughout both halves. But then when you watch it again with a more of a calm and composed head, you realise that he reacted really well. And actually, if you look at the build-up to that moment where ESR, had that shot at Robert Sanchez, it was Tomiyasu's line-breaking pass to Lacazette, and then he plays in the Mill Smith Rowe. People forget about that, and they just look at the fact that he had a really tough first half, and then they'll say he was poor all game, where in fact, if you actually watch it a lot closer, he wasn't. He reacted really well. So I'm very happy with him.
No, good shouts. But no, honestly, I've been very impressed from what I've seen. Like I said, coming into Premier League in your first season, it's not easy. Players come over from France, they come over from Spain. It's not an easy league to adapt to. It isn't. And I think he's done exceptionally well, considering. Ron, so next person I want to talk about is Ben White. Now, we've spoken about him before. I still think there's probably some sections of the fan base that are, I don't know if unsure is the right word, Rowan. I think they almost are looking for things that are not there. I mean, he can't help how tall he is. That's the first thing, right? Secondly, with centre back partnerships, who we're going to come on to Gabriel a little bit later, you're going to have one dominant centre back. And the thing with the Ben White thing is, Rowan, which I don't sort of get with Arsenal fans, they might disagree with me, but it's not like he's someone that was playing in the Bundesliga and we don't watch it, or he's playing in Serie A and we don't watch it. Ben White's been playing in this league or within English football for quite a while. Yes, he's 24, but he's not an unknown quantity.
Yeah.
So you would have been able to see him play. So my question would be, I'm not particularly sure, and I've said this before the Euros actually, that I'm not sure how many Arsenal fans actually watch a lot of football outside of watching Arsenal, because I've seen enough of Ben White to say, you know what, I can see why we would get him. I can see why. Yes, the money costs a little bit too much, but I think that's just, people call it the English tax for me personally. But I think he's been excellent. Excellent on the ball. His reading of the game. He's very rarely see Ben White dive in. Very, very rarely. He's very good at staying on his feet and jockeying. And what have you made of him, and how well do you think he's done, or what negatives can you possibly see that maybe Arsenal fans have still got about him?
I couldn't tell you. He's been outstanding. Not just good. He's been outstanding. We did a show before how when the Ben White rumors came through, I wanted this guy massively. I'm a huge fan of Ben White because I've watched him when he was in the Championship for Leeds. He played every single minute in the Championship and was a massive player for them. And then he played for Brighton last season, and he was a huge success there as well. And when you consider the fact that you look at Marco Bielsa, you look at Graham Potter, regardless of what your thoughts are on those two managers, they like progressive football and they like to play free-flowing, attack-minded football. And in order to do that, you need defenders who are composed, calm in possession, but also defenders who can defend in isolation. And what I mean by that is in 1v1s where, in transition, they've got to be adept to stand against those situations. And he's been fantastic. And I just couldn't see, I know it's early days, but I genuinely can't see how this deal fails, because I just look at Ben White, I look at his attributes, and I don't see significant weaknesses within his game. You look at the game against Brentford, and
which people focus on a hell of a lot.
And the criticism for me was massively over the top. Ivan Toney is one of the most physical forwards in the Premier League. He is going to give all defenders across the division all sorts of problems. You've got Virgil van Dijk and Joel Matip, two very consistent centre backs. You could put them in the top 5 in the league, in terms of consistency and what they provided for Liverpool. He gave them massive problems in that game. And when you consider the fact that, in that game against Brentford, there were mitigating circumstances with, injuries, players out due to COVID, it being the first game of the season, it being Ben White's first game of the season, there's so many factors there to consider. The reaction was massively over the top. And like I said, what I like about a player is their ability to react after a setback. Because whilst the criticism was over the top, it was a setback for Ben White, and there were a lot of question marks surrounding his aerial capabilities after that. And he's been fantastic. The game against Norwich, brilliant on the ball. The composure that he has in possession in terms of the way he sprays passes towards the flanks, similar to the way Virgil van Dijk does for Liverpool and how effective he is, and the way he carries the ball forward. David Luiz, for me, he's been a very consistent player for Arsenal. Actually, when you consider the fact that, it was a small fee to actually acquire him. And the qualities he actually gave Arsenal in build-up and the leadership that he possessed, he was a very good player for the club, and in his absence, we needed someone who had a specific profile who could replicate his qualities, but could give more. And what David Luiz couldn't do that Ben White can do is the way he carries the ball forward, and he can also recover positionally. Ben White is very quick. And I'm sorry, but if you want to play expansive, free-flowing, possession-based football and you want to squeeze up the pitch, your back line is going to be high up the field. And in order to do that, you can't have passengers. You need to have players who are not only good on the ball, but they can recover positionally. And how many times have we seen Ben White where, there's been a ball played in behind, he's managed to be able to recover, and he's been able to stop that dangerous situation that, would have caused other defenders that we've had over the years massive problems. And You just look at standout games this season, against Harry Kane, he completely nullified him and his influence. Jamie Vardy most recently, he didn't have a sniff in that game, and that was
Yeah.
because of Ben White, and I think you have to give him massive credit. Obviously, the transfer fee was a significant one, and pressure comes with the amount that you actually have been brought in for. But he's been very consistent, and like I said, you look at Mikel Arteta, you look at what he wants to do for Arsenal in terms of possession-based football, being aggressive in pressing. Ben White suits that to a T, and I think he's been fantastic. And hopefully he should get an England call-up soon. He should be in that team because he's better than Tyrone Mings and Connor Cody, without a shadow of a doubt in my mind.
No, well said, man. Before I give my little 2 pennies worth about Ben White, because I kind of, Ryan, you see my content. It's very, very, very rare. Anybody that's seen my content in the chat that I'll stick my neck on the line for certain players. But I actually said it about Ben White this season. I said, look, just stick with him. And I thought a pivotal moment actually was in the North London derby when he did that tackle. I think it was on Son. And for me, from that game onwards, I think he's been excellent.
Yeah.
I think he's absolutely excellent. I thought the game with Villa, him and Gabriel, some of the defensive blocks.
Yeah.
Tony Adams would have been sitting there. Big up Kevin Campbell's in the chat. KC did the chat. Go on, brother. People, smash the like button. 76 people watching. Thank you for tuning in. Kevin, much love to you, brother, man. Their attitude is a key thing which you will touch on as well. But with Ben White, yes, I love the way he brings the ball out of defense now comfortable is. And what he does is he draws out the opposition because they've got another problem to think about. Yes, they're thinking, oh, you know what, got to pick up the main man in the Aubameyang or Lacazette's in the pocket. But if Ben White adds more numbers, which he does do when he brings the ball out of defense, it's only going to be better for us. But yeah, listen, like I said, I stuck my neck out for Ben White. I see a lot of potential there. And I'll say this for him and probably the entire defense, actually. Arsenal fans, it's gonna be bumpy road this season. There's gonna be games where we might throw in some horror shows because we've been used to it as Arsenal fans, to be honest with you. So it can happen. There's some very, very good footballing sides in the Premier League. Absolutely. There's some excellent strikers in the Premier League. It's not going to be easy, but Ben White's been brilliant.
I think, like you said, Albert, like you said, context is needed. There are going to be ups and downs because this is an incredibly young team, that's still learning and developing. And one thing with Ben White, I don't think he gets enough credit for, is how aggressive he is in duels when he's high up the pitch and the timing of his tackles. You've seen defenders of the year who are very rash and they pick up yellow cards very poorly. But Ben White, his timing is really good. And that's just enables us to just kind of sustain pressure and squeeze up the pitch. I don't think he gets enough credit for that, and it's an aspect that he ranks really highly in terms of underlying data. And actually, when you watch it in games with the eye test, you can see it. He's a huge player for us, and touch wood, he stays fit because he's massive. If he does get injured, him, Gabriel, or Tomiyasu, or even now Ramsdale, I really do worry because they're so crucial to the way that we play. And you look at the players that we have in reserve, they don't offer the same qualities that these guys do.
Yeah, no, well said, man. I've really lost the numbers of Ben White. It's interesting. I want to get your thoughts because I'm going to bring on about Gabriel because looking at the sort of their, I know it's only 10 games into the season, but bear in mind with Ben White and Gabriel, they haven't played the full 10 games. But in terms of tackle success rate, Ben White 14%, Gabriel 56%. So I think that for me illustrates that, like I said, you're always going to have one centre back that's more dominant than the other. And with Ben White, clearances 27, recoveries 33, passes per match 44.63, accurate long balls 22. Gabriel, I'm going to give you his numbers before I bring you in. And I think the key thing with Gabriel and Tomiyasu and Ramsdale, before I bring in about Gabriel, Rowan, Ramsdale 6'2". Tomiyasu 6'2". Gabriel 6'3". You see where I'm going with this, isn't it? We actually have, and I don't think I could say this about an Arsenal defense for quite a number of years, if I'm being honest, is we have an aggression and a physicality with this side now. We will not be bullied. I thought there were significant signs in the Burnley game when Tierney went down, and the first two players that went to go and step in was Ramsdale and Gabriel. And it's happened many, many times this season. The incident with Johnny Evans, people might say it was a nothing incident, but I like the fact that Aaron Ramsdale got up and wanted to go and wring his neck.
Yeah,
I loved that. I love that. Yeah, so
I loved it. Yeah,
yeah, there's an aggression and a physicality there, and I think for me that stems from Ramsdale and Gabriel, and actually Lacazette's quite a physical and aggressive player. But yeah, I want to bring it back, Gabriel. I know we bought him last season, but I couldn't believe some of the Arsenal fans last season that possibly I'm laughing, but potentially had doubts about him. But I said to people, look, he got player of the month the first 3 months of the season, I believe, last season. Had COVID. Listen, you're coming to Arsenal Football Club where they've systemically had an issue with defense. So he's not going to come in and be the next Paolo Maldini. It's not going to happen. So yeah, I want to. What's your thoughts on what you've seen with Gabriel? And in terms of the stats I kind of mentioned about the two centre backs, is there any surprises in there for you or not really?
No, like I said, it's literally just backs what you actually see on the pitch. You have one that's more aggressive and one that's a little bit more conservative. But what I do like about both of them is that there's no glaring deficiencies with the two. You look at Laurent Koscielny and Per Mertesacker, that's arguably been our best centre-back partnership over the last 10 to 15 years, because it's been that long since we've had a really good
exactly. Yeah.
We've got to remember that we're in 2021 now. So, and but you could see with Mertesacker, his understanding, his positional awareness, and the way he read the game was fantastic. But he lacked pace, didn't he? He lacked clear pace, and there was always vulnerabilities when he was playing against the likes of Shane Long in particular, who was making those movements in behind. But you look at Ben White and Gabriel. They've been, they don't have glaring deficiencies, and that's what I really like about the two. And yeah, should we talk about Gabriel then?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, Gabriel, I started this journey of, football writing and just trying to get into that industry a year and a bit ago. And Gabriel was actually one of the first articles that I did. And this was before Arsenal, actually managed to acquire him. And he was the guy I wanted because I looked at him at Lille. I watched a lot of Ligue 1 and I was very excited about his profile and what he could actually give Arsenal. And you look at last season, like you said, 3 successive player of the months in a row. That's outstanding for a new player coming again to a different league that presents different challenges in physicality, pace, and intensity. And he adapted really well. Then he obviously had that red card against Southampton, and he went through that COVID period. And he came back, and there was a little bit of a decline in performance levels. But I said at the time, context is needed. And it's one of those ones where when a player does incredibly well and overachieves in terms of performances, naturally the fans are expecting them to maintain that, despite the fact that he's a young player who's still learning the game, who is raw in certain aspects, and he's going to make mistakes. So I expected him to make, mistakes towards the latter stages of last season, against the likes of Fulham, where he gave away a penalty, against Liverpool, where he didn't have the best of games. But look at this season. I've got no doubt that this guy is, a Rolls Royce of a centre back. He's outstanding, and for me, he's hands down one of the top 5 defenders in the Premier League, centre back.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I went through the list today on the top of my head, and I only see 4 who are better than him right now. And Gabriel, I think last season what people said was his clear weakness, which I didn't agree with, was his passing. And
I don't agree with that. Yeah, you're right.
The reason why I don't agree with that is because I think it's very broad to just say that he's weak in passing. What I felt Gabriel needed to improve on was his understanding of when to play a forward pass and when to kind of go backwards and be a little bit more safe. And I think his hesitancy and build-up is what kind of made him look poorer than what he actually is. But this season, he's been a lot more decisive. He's been a lot more confident on the ball. And I actually think, having guys like Ben White and Aaron Ramsdale has definitely helped him in that regard. 100%. And Mikel Arteta as well, he's definitely drilled it into him. And he's been very good on the ball in terms of his short to medium range passing and also those long balls that he's provided. Defensively, he's colossus. He's
absolutely.
In the game against Burnley, you look at Wood and Barnes, 2 very physical centre forwards, completely nullified their threat. And what I like about Gabriel is that he has the qualities to mitigate the influence of any forward in the Premier League, whether it's an Antonio, who last season, in the second game of the season where he nullified him, the only joy Antonio had in that game was when he pulled onto Rob Holding, and that's where he got his goal. But Gabriel completely nullified him, and you can deal with the quick players like Jamie Vardy, for example, but also the physical forwards, lots of Ollie Watkins.
Brilliant.
Ollie Watkins, Ollie Watkins last season, actually, I put a tweet out prior to the game where I said this is a massive game for Gabriel, because when I look at last season, the centre forward that gave him a lot of trouble was Watkins. But this season, I really enjoyed his performance and the way he kind of stood up to that challenge and was fantastic. So I think,
yeah,
you know, he's been brilliant, and I can't see him, you know, not succeeding at Arsenal. Fantastic player.
you make a good point. And the thing is, as well, with Gabriel, I actually think he's a lot better on the ball than people give him credit for. I generally think that.
Yeah,
And
honestly.
yeah, I mean, people might argue sometimes this is not coming from me. It's probably the school of art of defenders when you hear the pundits. He gets too touch tight. I said, but that's the way he kind of is.
Yeah,
He likes the physicality side of it. But I thought for me, when I mentioned about the aggression and the physicality with this defense, in the Villa game, especially when I was there watching that game, it's a brilliant game, by the way. It's a great game of football. I know Arsenal won brilliant, but actually just a great game of football to watch. But he absolutely set the tone for that game. The likes of him and Lacazette, the aggression, the physicality, the incident, like you mentioned with Ollie Watkins at the Emirates, where he just physically manhandled him. And even I was sitting there watching, I was getting excited. I thought I was going to jump onto the pitch and join him. But
it's great, isn't it? It's great when you see a defender stand up to a challenge, because, like I said, last season, I'll always be fair. Ollie Watkins had Gabriel's number in both games. And he was the only forward that I felt Gabriel had real problems with. So that's why I was looking at him closely and seeing how does he cope with his threat, because Ollie Watkins is a very good player. He runs the channels really well. He's very physical when he drops deep, brings in. So no joy in that game whatsoever. And like I said, it's great to have a defender who can be comfortable on the ball, is composed in possession, is aerially an absolute monster, both in terms of defense and when we're actually attacking corners. Last season, Gabriel got 3 goals from set pieces. This season, he's already off the mark as well now against Leicester, and he can defend in isolation. When a Jamie Vardy is running in behind, I'm not worried with a Gabriel, because I know he can handle him, he can recover, and he can make the right decisions, and that's the key. And when you consider the fact that he's just 23, he can only get better. And like I said, with Ben White, touch wood, he stays fit, because without these two, our performance levels will drastically decline. They will massively decline, and that's what I worry about severely. When Ben White was picked to play in the game against Leeds, I was very worried, because
I was very surprised.
Obviously, in the end, it's great to see him perform well, but at the same time, I'm always thinking worst case scenario. What happens if he gets an injury in this game? He's ruled out for a significant amount of games, because if any of these two get injured, we can't play high up the pitch. We have to sit a lot deeper, because Rob Holding, Pablo Mari, Callum Chambers, they can't recover when they're going backwards. And that's the difference, and it's just simple things like that. You want defenders who are good on the ball, who are good defensively, and have got pace. And that's exactly what those two have.
It's amazing you say that. I think, again, you know what it is? I think it's a mindset thing, because obviously, like I said, where the defense has been neglected, and we've actually got not even just centre backs, we've got a defensive unit. Because one thing I was critical of Arsenal for a number of years, but probably the last couple of years, is the chopping and changing of centre backs, the chopping and changing of full backs. And the one thing I kind of concentrated on this season was I wanted to see more continuity and more of a structure, more of a settled defensive side. Yes, I want to see a settled 11. Of course we do. But for me, the key component, as I said in the title, the resilience and resurgence so far, because I don't, because it's a bit of a buzzword that the media use, but I've just used that from what I've seen so far, as opposed to what I think might happen for the rest of the season. But I think it's integral. Like you said, that for me, the mindset has changed amongst Arsenal fans. That if we're looking at our goalkeeper, thinking, you know what, we've got someone, he's got the passion, he loves being here, he's very commanding, he gives the defense confidence with Ramsdale. You've got a physical unit and well-rounded right back in Tomoyasu. You've got a beautiful partnership developing with Ben White and Gabriel. And obviously, when Tierney's fully fit or Tavares comes in, we actually have a nucleus of a team in terms of our defensive structure and unit that can actually propel this team to greater heights potentially. And that's different. We're talking in a way that we're actually really worried if someone of them gets injured, because
I'm fearing the worst, honestly, because like you said, continuity is such an important word, and especially in football, not just football, but any sport. I look at, the 3 key positions where I want to see them play every single time is the goalkeeper and the two centre backs.
Yeah,
Because you need
100%.
to have that relationship. Obviously when you have, for example, the Europa League and you have cup games, I don't mind, changes here and there. But in the league, if they're all fit to play, they should be playing every single game, regardless of
100%.
who the opposition is. And, like you said, the more games they play together, they can only get better. And, I think what people do need to understand is that Gabriel, Ben White, and Ramsdale, they'll make mistakes this season, 100%.
100%.
They will make mistakes. But I think when you obviously be frustrated in that moment, you'll be thinking, oh, how's Aaron Ramsdale let that in? Why has Ben White made that decision? Why has Gabriel done that? But then when you actually, think about it a lot more thoroughly, they're young players. They're still learning. They have a lot of experience in their belt, definitely. But, you have to put context into these situations a lot. That's why I look at the Palace game as well. Gabriel, for that situation where he's very flat-footed, against Benteke, and he manages to go past him, slot it into the corner. It's a poor mistake from Gabriel, but he will learn from it. He's a young player, and that's the key. So just stick with these guys. I'm confident that if they play throughout the whole season, we'll have a good league campaign, 100%.
Yeah, it's a good point, because I said, you know what, even if I just fast forward through the whole season, as long as these 5 play continuously and consistently for the season, they will develop partnerships and get stronger. And listen, I love the body language I'm seeing with this defense, the fist pumping, the last ditch tackles, the togetherness that is there, and the physicality combined with a bit more balls and resilience.
Yeah.
It's great to see, to be honest
It is
with you.
great
But
to see, yeah.
now, right, yeah, just touching on Gabriel, sort of his numbers in terms of, like I said, tackle success, 56% in the Premier League so far, clearances 31, recoveries 23, passes per match 50, accurate long ball 17. And I think the key thing with Gabriel, before we move on to the next thing I want to talk to you about, is he played for Lille in a back 4.
Mhm.
Right, he's come to the Premier League in his first season playing in the back 3. So when people say, oh, it makes me laugh when people kind of go, oh yeah, but this player plays in a back 4. If players are good enough and intelligent enough and got a high level of football IQ, you can adapt. It's possible.
Yeah.
It's very possible. So
Yeah.
now, Graham, great to get yourself. People in the chat, thank you, man. It's been very, very lively. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a really good comments as well. I really appreciate
really good.
this.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, people, like I said, if you just join the stream, don't even touch the like button. People smash it wide open, and follow my esteemed guest on his Twitter handle, which is displayed in the box in the screen. So yeah, I was gonna throw some numbers at you. I was looking at this Arsenal in the last 3 seasons in terms of goals scored and goals against. It's really, really weird, actually. So if I'm looking at sort of goals against, right? So the 2018-19 season, that's Emery's first season, I think it was. Yeah. We finished 5th, conceded 51. Following season 2019-20, we conceded 48, less, but we finished 8th. Last season, conceded 39 goals, still finished 8th. It's amazing. Let me go to the goals scored. It is really, really weird how it's the complete opposites. People in the chat, and Rowan, again, 2018-19 season scored 73. Following season 19-20 scored 56. Last season 55. So we're scoring less goals, but defensively it's weird, because obviously if you're going to go by league table, Arsenal we're not improving, which you can argue either for or against, really. But it's mad. What do you make of that sort of stat? You might have knew that already, but
yeah,
we're conceding less, but we're scoring less.
Yeah, I've always spoke about one thing about Mikel Arteta, and people will know that I do like Mikel Arteta, and I do believe in him. Whether he's the man to take us to that next level, I'm not sure about that. But right now, I do believe he is the guy who's going to be able to steady the ship. And straight away, when Arteta came in, I think you can see the clear improvements in terms of structurally the way we're defensively a lot more compact when we don't have the ball, and you go to Emery, for example, in his last season in particular, the amount of times teams were able to transition through our midfield far too easily. The distances between our central midfielders and the centre backs were too open, and that just allowed teams to constantly pile on attacks after attacks, and you saw Bernd Leno literally have catalogues of shots to save, and that's where he did flourish. And under Mikel Arteta, he realised that, and I use this key word where, although obviously the goals for have been very underwhelming, I don't believe we are a team that just sits men behind the ball. You know, like a Burnley, for example. We don't sit with two banks of four and we just defend. Mikel Arteta has implemented a structure where when we're attacking, we're still in a situation where we're going to be solid defensively. He's given us a solid base, and that's why you saw players like
Leicester was a good example, because I thought he was excellent out of possession.
Yeah, and I think that's something that he's done really well. He's drilled this 4-4-2 out of possession shape so well, like really well. We're so tight in terms of our distances between the back line, the midfield and the back line, and the two forwards as well. They do a really good role of preventing that holding midfielder from getting time on the ball and dictating the play. Like, for example, against Leicester, it was Boubakary Soumaré who Aubameyang and Lacazette did a really good job in that first half of just preventing that supply line to him. And when I go back to previous seasons where Arteta, I do believe that you can see the improvements defensively. You've seen players like Mustafi and Socrates improve because that was the system in place. Obviously, they weren't the guys to take us to the next level, but the structure was there and it was in place. And what I wanted to see this season was us to go up a level. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is bring in reinforcements, because the structure is there. Now bring in the players, and you're seeing a massive difference now, and that's key. Obviously, going forward, we need to see more. I don't believe we're a team who just sit back. We definitely do try and create chances, and slowly but surely, I do think it will click over a consistent run of games if we have a settled front line. If we have injuries and players become absent, then you are going to see fluidity. We need to have the front line settled for them to develop a partnership, and that's what I'll hopefully see in the next few games.
Yeah, you know what? Like I said, we've both said it, mate. There's going to be bumps in the road. I mean, from an offensive point of view, like I said, I just read out the stats in terms of goals scored and against for the last 3 seasons. Even this early in the season, we do need to score more goals. I think we rank 10th in the league in terms of goals scored in the Premier League. We scored 12. 11 in the box, same as Brentford and Watford, only one more than Newcastle. So that needs to improve. Our goal difference is the worst in the top 10. I think top 12 actually. On -1.
I do think also the goals scored 100%. We definitely need to improve it. I think we will if we continue to have a settled front line. But I think that Manchester City game has massively skewed it, hasn't it? The 5-0.
100%.
I don't like it when people look at Arsenal and think, oh, they've still conceded a fair amount of goals. But I'm not looking at our first 3 games, and the reason why I'm not looking at them, that's where we didn't have our leaders at the back. Since we've had Ramsdale, Gabriel, Ben White, Tomiyasu, Thomas Partey all play together, we've conceded 4 goals. And you look at the goals that we've actually conceded. The goal that Jacob Ramsey scores, it's a screamer.
It was a screamer. It was a good goal. Yeah.
And the goal that Spurs got in their game, that came from actually Grant Xhaka sustaining an injury, and they played on, obviously, and they got that goal. And obviously the 2 Palace goals were poor, but generally there's massive improvement there defensively, and I do believe that our front line will be a lot more potent if they continue to play games together.
Yeah, no, well said. Big up to the people in the chat, because you know what I mean. You're right. There is from what I can kind of gauge. You might see a different Rowan. Like, there is optimism there, and they're happy with what they're seeing at the moment. Like I said, I'm beaten in 9 games in all comps, but I understand that people are wary and they're cautious. Rowan, you've touched on it. You've touched on it upon from an injury point of view. If we lose one of the centre backs, or God forbid, even 2 of them, then we are in trouble.
And that's what worries me. That's what worries me.
It does worry me. But yeah, 2 more things I want to talk to you before we wrap up. One aspect of the team, yes, we talk about the resilience, resurgence of the team, what they're showing so far. Let me get that 2 keywords in.
Yeah.
But one area of the pitch that I think universally, I'd find it very difficult to find any Arsenal fan that would disagree, and that is the midfield area.
Yeah.
The sort of transfers are always something that Arsenal talked about. It doesn't matter what time of the season. We get linked with so many players, but there's one player I want to talk about with you. And that player is Dennis Zakaria. Now, if anybody in the chat has been aware of him or watched him in Bundesliga or even for the national team for Switzerland, his name's been touted with Arsenal for quite a while, actually. I would say probably off the top of my head, Roman, I don't know about you, maybe 2, possibly straight 3 years, possibly. His name's been mentioned, possibly coming to Arsenal. I think with him, I'll be honest with you. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of talent in Europe. Okay, from guys from their early 20s to mid 20s, and I think Zakaria is 24. Physically, an imposing figure, 6'3", very well-rounded player. Don't just think he breaks up play and that's it and pops the ball off to his other attacking players. He's a lot better than that. I must admit, I've seen him play more for Switzerland than for Mönchengladbach. I think he's had about 117 matches there in his career in Germany. I'll give you some stats, my bro. He played recently on the weekend. They won 2-1. Distance covered 10.2 kilometers, 11 tackles, 55 successful passes, 19 sprints. The games this season in the Bundesliga, pass success rate 91.115%, tackle success rate 52.2%. He's featured in 8 games this season. Is he somebody that you could see at Arsenal? And let me give you a bit of better context than that, really, because that's just could you see him in this Arsenal team? Yes, there might be other targets out there, but what have you made of the potential links? Because I believe with Zakaria, he is in the final year and can start talking to clubs from the 1st of January. What do you make of the links with him? And what do you think he would be a good acquisition to Arsenal?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like you said, Dennis Zakaria, he's been linked with moves to a lot of top European clubs over the last few years. His name's actually kind of died down a little bit over the past year. I've not seen significant links with him to other top clubs. But like I said, when you look at his profile, he's a dynamic midfielder. He's 24 years old, and I've not watched loads of him, but what I've seen of him, I think he's a decent sample size where he's played in multiple positions. He's played as a holding midfielder. He's played in the midfield too. He's actually played at centre-back as well.
You just said, you took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, he can play centre-back.
Yeah, he can play centre-back as well. So he's definitely got the profile that would be desirable and could slot into this team. And like you said, with his contract running out come the summer, I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal actually did look at his profile, because definitely we need midfielders, because we are, like I said, the injuries is something that scares me. And
it does.
One thing that I don't want to think of right now is the fact that when AFCON comes, we're going to be so light in midfield, and that really worries me, because it's not just the games, straight away in the AFCON that they're going to miss. They're also going to be going, I think, straight away, towards the start of January. So they could be like lots of Partey and Aubameyang and El Neni. Well, and Neni's not, a player who's going to be massively missed. But when you consider the fact that we are going to be light, he could be handy. He's going to be gone as well. They could miss like 6 games. So we're definitely very light there. I speak to people who watch a lot of the Bundesliga, like scouts and analysts, and they like him. What they don't like about Dennis Zakaria is his concentration levels at time. You know what?
Again, you took the words out of my mouth. Sorry, right. When I did the research, sorry, bro, I'm gonna come back to you. That is the one thing that came back. What you just said.
Yeah, it's mad, because because like I said, I'm not fully confident to say he's the guy Arsenal need, because I feel like I need to see a little bit more of him. The player that I actually want Arsenal to go for in January is another player who's kind of in a similar situation to Zakaria in terms of his contract running out in the summer, is Marseille midfielder Boubacar Kamara. He honestly, I watch a lot of Liga on. Like I said, I've watched a lot of this guy, and this season, I focus a lot more on Marseille, because obviously we have our boy Saliba playing there. I got to focus.
Thank you for letting me know. By the way, I've watched a few games.
Yeah,
I think he looked all right. He looked
very good. And so, like I said, Kamara, naturally, I've been watching him a lot, and he's a player who's, I think, a lot technically he's technically better than a Zakaria. I don't think he's as physically imposing than a Dennis
Yeah.
Zakaria, but he's got a lot of qualities that I think would slot into our midfield. And like I said, he's 21 years old and he's played, I think, 3 seasons of full first team football for Marseille, and he's a real leader on the pitch as well. He does make mistakes sometimes. That he does dwell on the ball and he can get caught out in tight spaces. I think he's too confident in certain situations where he can be a little bit more safe. But overall, he's got a really good profile and very technical, and a midfielder I would definitely look at. But, Dennis Zakaria, I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal looked at him, especially when you consider the fact that the January market is very difficult to do business, to get your aids. It's going to be those guys who are, moving towards the end of their contract where you're able to kind of negotiate with them. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting one. Definitely an interesting player. I need to watch more of him, but I do like him. But I am a little bit cautious of some of the negatives within his game.
That was the one word that I said, oh God, concentration. Oh my God.
You know what, concentration levels it's very important, especially in the Premier League, and so especially the fact that the Bundesliga is a lot slower paced than the Premier League. So you have to be a lot more decisive and quick in your decision making. So let's see what happens with that one.
I think January is a very difficult window to sort of do any business, but I think long term and probably into the summer, he's a name that's not going to go away. And you make a good point in terms of the boy from Marseille. Is it Kamara? Did you say?
Yeah,
very good from what I've seen.
I'd recommend anyone in the chat, definitely try and do your due diligence and watch William Saliba play. But naturally, if you're going to be watching him play, you're going to watch Kamara because he plays every single game for Marseille.
Yeah, no, Rome, big shout, because I think in terms of players that's going to be linked with Arsenal, who you met, Kamara definitely. Yeah. Obviously, keep an eye on Saliba. I always say to you, let me know when this guy's playing, because my diary just all over the place. But you know what? Like I said, maybe I will make a conscious effort to watch more of Zakaria, and I've made listen. When I was growing up, when I was a bit younger, before I turned 21 plus VAT, I used to love watching Serie A and Bundesliga. Those were my main 2 leagues outside of watching English football. But I've kind of tailed off over the years. But I do need to get back onto it. But no, big up to you, Rowan, for letting me know that, because he's a good player from what I've seen in Kamara as well. But listen, guys, they're not going to go away. But Ryan, the last thing I want to ask you before we finish up, people in the chat, like I said, thank you for your brilliant interaction for my first show of Albert's talking points with my special guests as well. But Arsenal sort of, listen, as fans, we like to predict sometimes, look at our sort of fixtures coming up. I'm going to include the Leicester game, because people said, what do you think Arsenal's going to get in terms of a points return? I said we'd beat Leicester personally. I didn't come up with a scoreline until probably the day before the game, and I said Arsenal would win 2-1. But I did think Arsenal would go there and win. Anybody seen my content when I did the block of 4 games? You might have seen it, Rowan. I said we would draw with Brighton, we would draw with Palace, we would beat Villa, and we beat Leicester. And I said we'd get 8 points out of 12, because I think that is where this team is at. You're going to see a lot of interchange in the league. Arsenal might be 6 one day. We're 6 at the moment, 17 points, 3 points off top 4 from West Ham. Listen, it's going to fluctuate, people. So don't put your seatbelts on, man, because it's going to be bumpy. But I was going to say, I'm going to tell you what I've gone for. I've gone for Arsenal, including the Leicester game. Might come across a bit negative for some people, but I've gone for Arsenal's points return to be 10 points out of 18. So beat Leicester, beat Watford, lose to Liverpool, beat Newcastle, lose to United, draw away to Everton. So going through, just to ask you quickly. So Watford game, what do you think?
I think we'll win that one. 3 points.
The only reason why I'm cautious, you know what it is? Because when I saw the results on the weekend, for example, Palace going to Man City and winning, Brighton played excellent to get a point at Liverpool. Listen, as bad as Watford might have been, there's something always kind of at the back of my mind, but I do think we'll beat them, mate. So I'm with you. Liverpool.
They are a well-drilled team. They are a level above. Arsenal are doing very well, but we need context. There are some very good teams in this league, and I think they'll beat us comfortably.
I think we will as well.
It's at Anfield as well.
Yes, Anfield. Newcastle at home on the 27th of November.
I think we'll win that. It'll be interesting if it's Unai Emery, there.
Can you imagine? That would be something. Trust
That
me.
could change the dynamics, but I think we'll beat.
100%.
Yeah.
Man United away.
We've
Is it home? Is it away? I think it's away.
It's away from home. Yeah, we've actually not lost to United since Arsenal's left. We've got a very good record against them. I think we'll get
OT. We're just. I know we won there last season, but our record there generally is horrendous.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I think since Arsenal's left, we drew 2-2 in Emery's first season, and we drew 1-1 in his second season, and then we won last season. So I think I'll be optimistic. I think we'll get a point.
Cool.
We'll get a point.
The last game, Everton away. I think that's December 6th.
I think we'll drop points there as well. I think it'll be a point.
I think we'll get a point now.
I keep stressing. This is one thing that I massively stress, and it's something that I've spoken about for the last 2 seasons as well on my private accounts and stuff. That the league is so much more competitive outside the elite sides, and that's because of the influx in money and the amount of the players that some of these smaller clubs have. They could get into the top teams, and that's why you're seeing massive inconsistencies in results. And I've said at the start of the season, not many teams, apart from Man City, Liverpool, and Chelsea, will win 4 games on the bounce.
Yeah, 100%.
Many teams, and so far, not many. I only think Chelsea have won 4 games on the bounce. So. Obviously, on paper, you look at Everton away, people think, "Oh, we're Arsenal, we should be winning that." It doesn't work like that. It does not work like that. And like I said, if we get the amount of points that I've kind of predicted, I'll be more than happy. That's serious signs of progression, especially when you're considering the quality of a team. So, yeah, I think we'll drop points at Everton. I think it's always an interesting game at Goodison. We have had good success there, but we've also had some tough times. I remember going back where we lost 3-0 when they were under Martinez and Lukaku scored Naismith and players like that.
Yeah.
But that's what I predict.
No, well said. See people come with some predictions in the chat. Listen, one thing I would love to go and see Arsenal do it, and I know I'm really, really clutching here, people in the chat and Rowan. Let us see an Arsenal win at Anfield, please, in the league.
Oh, please.
I've been crying out for years. Arsenal, please, if you're listening, just do something when we go to Anfield. But listen, I'm not confident, but I'll be honest with you, man.
We were so close a few years ago in Arsene's in 2015-16. It was 3-3. It was a snowy day, and it was like we were 3-2 up. And the last kick of the game, Joe Allen scores. And do you remember that? And I think the last time we won there was in 2012, Podolski and Cazorla. That was the last time we won there in the league. We won last season in the Carabao Cup on penalties, but we don't count that. So. But yeah, I need a win at Anfield.
Mate, I would love to see us win at Anfield. It's been a long time, Give the away fans something, the hardcore away fans.
4-0s, 5-1s,
yeah, batterings. But no, people, we have come to the end of the first show of Albert's Talking Points. Like I said, I want to give a big shout out to Potts, who was in the chat I saw earlier, and Lee Judges for giving me a great opportunity to do a show on their channel. Yeah, I'm blessed, man. I feel blessed. We've been given some amazing opportunities. Hybrid Squad, Gonna Talk TV, many channels. So thank you for that. People in the chat, thank you for embracing me and my little bro RJ Arsenal blog. Like I said, smash that like button, people. Rowan, you obviously got your own channel and you're doing some amazing work at football.london. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, in terms of YouTube, it's been so hectic. I've not been able to kind of like be consistent on it. But I do have a YouTube channel. It's RJ Arsenal Vlog instead of the B in the handle there. But yeah, mainly I do write about Arsenal for Football London. I also write for Gunners Town and Arsenal Review when I have a little bit of time. So that's where you can find me. Yeah. If you want to follow. If you don't, you don't.
People go and follow him. No, big up to you, man. Like I said, if for me you was the perfect person for me to come and do this first show with. So I'm glad to get you on, man. People in the chat, big up to you. Fantastic interaction, man. Go and follow my amazing guest on his Twitter handle on the screen. He's got a channel, like he said, but he does some amazing threads and articles. So people, please go and support my little brother, man. And as your host, Albert JTV, I actually do have a channel, believe it or not, I do. So people, come and check it out. And my Twitter handle is right next to you at AUMO57. Like I said, follow me and Rowan and our channels and Twitter handles. We interact enough on Twitter. not too much, because sometimes we need a little bit of a break away from it. So people, big up to people watching this, and people who might rewatch this or watch it on the rerun who didn't get to watch it live. Hope you enjoy the show. So Roman, man. One more thing. Whoever's going to the game on Watford, I will be there on Sunday. If I go Saturday, definitely won't be no game there. But Sunday, I'll be there at home to the home game against Watford. Big up Guna Souls, who's coming with me. First game to watch the Arsenal. So
I need to go back as well. I have only been able to go to the Chelsea game, and that wasn't great. Hopefully I can go to the Newcastle game, but it's just a bit busy at the moment.
No, take your time, bro.
Travel and stuff. You know, I live quite far away to the Emirates. Not too far, but it's you know.
Yeah, I'm a straight tracer, so it's all good for me, but I can't complain with the Southeast. But no, people, that is Lee Judges TV. Let's subscribe to Lee Judges TV, of course, people, as well as Albert J TV and RJ Arsenal blog. But people, that is Albert Talking Points, episode 1. Over and out, people. See you soon.